Hey, friends, welcome to the Only God podcast, where we share stories only God can write. I'm your host, Stephanie L. Jones, and each episode will dive into powerful testimonies, have great conversations, and encouragement that remind us when the impossible happens, it's only God. Let's get started.
Hey friends, it's Stephanie here, host of the Only God podcast, sharing stories only God could write. I want to say is on this podcast is I am going to be sharing interviews, but I'm also going to be sharing some of my own stories because I think it's important for us to constantly be looking at how God is working in our lives, not only in the present, but reflecting back. And because sometimes I feel like we can get stuck in like God's not doing anything, and we can look back and go, oh yeah, look how God was there each and every step of the way. I also think it's cool to recognize and see the people that God has used in our lives. And also being very transparent is I am constantly asking people if they want to be on the podcast. And sometimes we just can't get interviews scheduled for a couple of weeks or months. And so I have to be realistic that sometimes I'm just not going to have an interview prepared. So you're going to have to hear some of my stories, but I hope you enjoy them and I would love to get your feedback. So I was trying to think. I always tell people is whenever they share their stories or really want to see like, is God working in their life, is to pick a time in their life and start at that point and then just get a pad and paper and just kind of start writing out of the people that you met, the connections, moves you had to make, like all those different things. And I got to thinking about as I go on this journey with you on the Only God podcast is where do I want to start? Where do I want to start sharing my journey? And I'm not for sure I'll be able to constantly or always be able to share it in the order of things happen because sometimes I forget stuff. And this is a great prayer is a lot of times when I am in prayer is I'll ask God to remind me of something certain. And I'm always amazed of like memories that pop up or things that I've totally forgotten about. And so that's just going to be one of my prayers on this journey is if there's a story that I am supposed to share on the podcast, and maybe I've forgotten about it, is that I can like the Lord will bring it to mind and I will share it. The point I wanted to pick is going back to high school, a freshman in high school, which was many decades ago. And I had played basketball. I played volleyball, but I hated to run. And actually, I was like the black sheep in my family when it came to running because my mom and dad were runners. They ran half marathons. My little sister I think she ran like her first race when she was in, I don't know, kindergarten or first grade. But I hated running. It like loathed. I think we have a picture of me sitting on the side of like the road when they're all in a road race and I'm there just waiting for everybody. So it's like, I'm also not a person that gets like peer pressure. So I can be pretty stubborn. And I'm sure at that age was like, no, I'm not going to run and you're not going to make me and I'll sit here on the side of the road. So that just gives you a little background of like how I thought about running. I hated it. I loved playing basketball. That was kind of my sport that I played from, I don't know, third or fourth grade on up. And so anyways, that just gives you a little history. So freshman in high school, and I was not playing a spring sport, but a lot of my friends ran and participated in track. So I decided to be a manager and just thought I would help out and get to hang with my friends and like I don't know, be useful. And it was at a track meet and I think they needed somebody. That's the other thing I want to like tell you is these things happened a long time ago. So I'm going to share to my best ability the knowledge of how I remember things. And if you see me write about something and it's a little bit different, like the overall gist of the story is the same, if that makes sense. So anyways, it was a track meet and the coach, Miss Debbie Jett, who I love, she came up to me and was like, hey, we need somebody to run in the 800 meters. And would you be willing to run? And I was like, are you crazy? Do you know who you're talking to? No, I don't want to run. And I want to back up a minute is because she was my PE teacher, also physical ed teacher. And, in physical ed in high school, we had to run a mile. And she had even tried to convince me to run track that year because my mile time was decent. And she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I really challenge you to be the type of person, if you see something in somebody that they don't see in themselves, like, be an encourager, push them a little bit to get outside their comfort zone. And obviously, I had told her no, I was not going to run. And so that's why she even asked me to, like, hey, would you be willing to run the 800? Because she knew that I had some abilities, I guess, when it came to running. Anyway, somehow she convinced me to put on a uniform, get down there, run. I did. I think I got third place. And that kind of started my running career. I hated all of track. The 800 now is more of a sprint than it is a distance. At the time, it was distance. And the cross country coach, so the next season, the cross country coach had approached me about running cross country. And again, I think I was probably like, no, like that's even farther, more running. And I played volleyball, but I was not the best volleyball player. And Mrs. Jett was the volleyball coach also. And I think she probably really pushed me into say, like, hey, you're not going anywhere in volleyball, but you might have some potential in track. So again, like having somebody that speaks truth into you and not lies. Like I always think about the people on, this was back in the old days, not now, they don't really do it now, but like American Idol, and people get on American Idol and it's like, you can't sing. And I really wish somebody would have spoken truth into those people to say, you cannot sing, do not get on TV and embarrass yourself. So anyways, she spoke some truth into me that I was not going to have a career being a volleyball player, but running would be a good option for me. So my sophomore year, I decided not to play volleyball and I signed up to run track or cross country. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I loved it. I absolutely loved cross country. I loved trail running. I loved the girls and guys that I got to run and practice with. And it's really cool how God used like so much of my childhood, because even though I didn't like to run, is I grew up near a state park. We always went hiking outside. And now it was like I was back on the trails. I was just running instead of hiking. And I became a pretty good runner, especially cross country runner. I enjoyed it. I worked very hard at it. It was something that I think I had a little bit of a natural ability, but also I trained a lot and really liked that. I said I got to meet a lot of people, and honestly, I can't remember, but I got to meet this guy, Trevor. He was a year ahead of me. And he ran track and cross country, and we just became really good friends through our running. He used to tote me around because I was the younger one in my class and didn't have a car, and so he often toted my sister and I around. And when Trevor went off to college, he went to a college, Taylor University, which I'm supporting. Sporting one of their shirts today. And when he went off to college, he was gonna run track and cross country at Taylor University. And he begged me, come to Taylor. I know you would love it. Like, come for a visit, come to a cross country meet. And honestly, Taylor wasn't even on my radar. I'd never even heard of it before he went there. And I was getting recruited to run for some schools and had narrowed it down to a couple of colleges. And Taylor just was not on my radar. But my friend Trevor would not stop of like this persistent of, hey, you need to come visit. And so actually went to one of his cross country races and then did sign up to go on a visit. And I can still, I'm just going to tear up. It was so many years ago. That would have been like 1995. I can still remember where I was at on campus. I can still remember the guy who was like the tour guide, where my mom was with me. And it was like I had this peace come over me. And it was like, I have to go here. Like, this is where I am meant to be. And I gotta say is I up until then, I had always lived this life where if you work hard, I don't want to say you get where you want, but like if you apply, you get it. I went to a smaller school, and so it was like if you wanted to participate in something, I don't want to say it was like a participation trophy type school, but it was like it was so small that if you worked hard, you could kind of do whatever you wanted to do. And so I applied and I didn't get accepted. I can't remember if I was put on a wait list or just told no. I think I was on a wait list. And I was devastated. So I go from like not even wanting to go, not on my radar, other schools where I wanted to go run cross country to now, this is the only place I want to go. And up until this point, like I just think it's so cool of how only God could have orchestrated all of that, from my teacher being encouraging, seeing something in me, to me start running, loving it, my friend Trevor being a year ahead, like going to Taylor and him encouraging me to come. Like you just start to see all these little points of how God's working and how sometimes we have to take the step of faith or we have to do things that we don't like. Like not every time we're going to be doing things that we like to do. We will be called to do a lot of things that are uncomfortable. But it's in that when we're uncomfortable, it's like how we rely upon God. It's in his strength. And I think a lot of times, at least I have felt sometimes, is it's like only God could have made this happen or turned me into a runner or really brought up in me of like, oh, I have this gift and I can use it. And so now I'm at this point I want to go and I don't get accepted. And I think this is where I just knew. I don't even know how to kind of talk through this part of what I thought. And it probably wasn't I know I was a wreck. I know that. I know like that is not what it looked like to trust God because I was a wreck. I was crying. I called my friend Trevor, who's at school. I did not get in. And it was like, that's not what trusting God looks like. Because if God had a plan for my life and where I was supposed to go to school, like trusting him would have said, okay, this is going to work out and God will figure this out. Anyway, so I called my friend Trevor. I'm panicked, crying, and he said, let me make a phone call. And he called the track coach, not the cross country coach. Now, mind you, actually my senior year of high school, I don't think I ran track because I had some injuries. So I really only ran track like half that freshman year, sophomore and junior year. And I wasn't a big fan of track. And I did run the mile and 2 mile, but still didn't care to be on a track. And if you think about it, the 2 mile was 8 laps and I hated about every lap that I had to run. And so next thing you know, I'm getting a call from the track coach and asking me if I would be willing to run the 10,000, which 10K, that if you don't know, is 25 laps on a track. I did not process that at all. And I think sometimes in life, when we are given an opportunity, I always say sometimes it's like God blinds me. God blinds me because some of the things that I've done, if I actually would have thought through it, I wouldn't have said yes to it because it's scary. Like it's going to be a lot of work. Like, do I really want to commit to that? But I said yes because I knew I was supposed to go to Taylor. And then, so now I'm in, like the coach within a week, I think I had my acceptance paperwork to go run. And I did end up running the 10,000. No, I think it was my freshman year I ran it. I actually had one of the 10 fastest times in school history. I've obviously since dropped off that because there were a lot of fast runners that came in past me. But I had a pretty good season that first year, second year, and then I got injured. And I don't think I ran my junior and senior year. But I also got to run cross country, which was really my favorite. And just so many lessons that I got to learn in cross country and being able to go and have 4 years at Taylor. And what I like, it's just how God works because they won. The cross country team won national championship in 2022. And I still am involved in the program from a distance and know the coach and have been able to support some of the girls. And it's just like you never know how God is going to use your life. And all those years ago, like my friend, just knowing that that's where I had to go and being so insistent and making the call, but then me going there. And honestly, we didn't even know how we were going to pay for it because it was a private school. My parents didn't have money to send me to a private school. And if I remember correctly, like my mom had a conversation with another mom, like another runner's mom, and it was just like, God will always provide. And I think my mom saying something like, whenever we needed to write that check to Taylor, and I took out a lot of student loans and I worked 1,000 jobs while I was in college, but it was like the money was always there for my parents to write whatever the check was that they had to write. And so, like, God, our provider. So, anyways, it's like I look back now and I can see all the places that God was working, and it was only because of Him that I got to go on this journey and meet amazing friends. Some of the friends that I'm still in contact today, some of my best friends, to still be involved in Taylor University and to see all the things that God is doing there. And so I just encourage you to take a moment to, if you're maybe discouraged about like, hey, is God doing anything in my life right now? Is to take a moment, grab a sheet of paper and to write out all the different places that God has worked in your life. I think also is if you're young and if you're in high school and you're listening to this, maybe you're out of high school and you're just like, does God have a plan for my life? Yes, He does. He has a plan for your life. I will say it's not going to be easy. It's not going to look like what you think it's going to look like. You might not go where you think you want to go, but God does have an amazing plan. And a lot of times it's going to be sacrifices. A lot of things it's going to be you stepping outside of your comfort zone and being uncomfortable. But if you are willing to do those things, God is going to take you on an amazing journey and adventure that you won't go on otherwise, but it does require holding His hand and putting all your faith and trust in Him. Let Him write your story. And
Hey, friends, thank you for joining me today on the Only God podcast. I hope today's story encouraged your faith and reminded you that God is still writing our stories each and every day. If you were inspired by this episode, please share, subscribe, and tell a friend. And to stay connected with me and find out about all my books and resources and events, go to shineforwardcreative.com. Have a fabulous day.